After strong opposition to their monthly protests, Attorney General Avitan recently threatened to arrest members of the Women of the Wall organization for praying outside the area designated to them. But despite these threats, the Women of the Wall today persisted in their demonstrations, unfortunately ending in clashes at the Western Wall complex. Critics of the Women of the Wall are labeling the move a provocation or even calling for charges to be filed. Well, here to discuss is Linda Avitan, a board member with the Women of the Wall, Rabbi Meir Azari of Beit Daniel, Tel Aviv, Rabbi Halbertal, who is a former head of the Office of the Chief Rabbi of Israel, and Rabbi Ronen Neuwirth, the chairman of the Avitan Tel Aviv Jewish Experience. Thanks for joining us. So, Linda, I'd like to start off with you here. What is wrong with the designated area that's been given?
Okay, so it was said to be a place that would protect us from the violence and the provocations of those around us, the women in particular, who would be whistling and shrieking and shouting and cursing at us. And we stayed there for a very long time, but we began to feel like it was giving them legitimacy to be violent towards us. And we decided it felt like we were in a cage, and we felt it was inappropriate. And we want to be at the Western Wall to do our davening, our prayers, as we do it, and we did it yesterday, and we did it today outside the designated area, and it wasn't a problem.
Well, obviously, there are many people who feel threatened by what was taking place. Why is it so threatening to have women do tefillin and talit?
The women, they embarrass the Jewish tradition. They're annoying everybody here. I want to tell you, when I'm in the kotel during the year, I'm looking to the right, to my left, and I never saw her. Not her personally, I mean those women. You see them only once a month, maybe, making their provocation. They don't mind really the religion, not the kotel. Theologically, the kotel means nothing for them, for the reforms and the liberals. It's a political act that embarrassed 95 or 96% of the people there. Most of them, by the way, are Haredi. So,
well, what is the response from some of our other guests here?
It's not they or them. This is the Jewish people. Most of the Jewish people today in the world,
they are not here.
Come here. Are reform, conservative, liberal, and secular.
They are not here.
And if we'll run a survey within the Jewish people, how they would like to approach the kotel, most of them would like to approach the kotel next to their daughter or their sons. This is how the Jewish people look upon the kotel. I know the Hardim demands this and that, but you'll have to come to a compromise. And the government of Israel, at a certain point, raised a compromise. Natan Sharansky was behind the compromise, and the compromise was great to the people of Israel here and there. We demand that the Jewish people will see Israel as a base for the Jewish people. You cannot ignore the people that are coming from outside of Israel to celebrate the Jewish life. You cannot ignore people like me and like the Women of the Wall and secular people that in approaching to the kotel somehow demands to live in a different way than they live in their life. And you remember very well that until 1948, the kotel was open to men and women, everybody together could approach the kotel. And in the temple, the old temple in Jerusalem, the old temple in Jerusalem was open to men and women. Only one place in the temple, the holy site, every corner of the temple. Every corner of the temple was
Rabbi
you know that
they didn't embarrass the Jewish tradition like them with putting on tefillin and putting on the talit.
You know that the
they make a provocation.
I'd like to hear Rabbi
Dov.
You know very well that the daughters of Rashi.
Where are all the reforms?
You know that daughters of Rabbi Rashi.
They are not the daughter of Rabbi Rashi.
Okay, Rabbi Neuwirth.
Thank you. First of all, to begin with, as an Orthodox rabbi, I strongly believe that the Kotel is an asset of the entire Jewish people, not just of the Orthodox movement. And therefore, I'm a great supporter of the compromise that was achieved, and it's a shame that it wasn't implemented yet. That being said, we need to remember that we are now on Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. And in the middle of Chodesh Tammuz, we are beginning days of mourning, 3 weeks of mourning for the destruction of the temple. And the temple was destroyed because of baseless hatred, because of violence. And today there was a provocation from the side of the Women at the Wall. They went against the law, against the recommendation
It's not a law, it's a recommendation.
I didn't interrupt you. They went against the recommendation. They created this provocation and started the fight and started the fire. With all the respect, I think that davenings and tefillot and prayers, which are coming with fights and violence and hatred, are completely meaningless.
Okay, so you spoke about the law. Judge Sobel made a decision several years ago. Women of the wall may pray according to their custom with talit and tefillin at the Western Wall. And the enclosed space only started about a year or two ago. So that has nothing to do with the law. It has to do with Rabbi Rabinovic's rules, which are outside the law. And I want to say that I was attacked this morning with a bag of water from children that should be in school. They are sending children to demonstrate against us and be violent. We had a very beautiful prayer service this morning with the whistling of the women who come every month, which is condoned, this one, which is condoned by the Western Wall Heritage Foundation. And violence should not be condoned under any circumstances. It's going to be dangerous. When we're inside the area or outside, it's the same violence. That's an excuse.
My call to my colleagues, the Orthodox rabbis, try to help us and you to open the wall, the Western Wall, the Kotel for Am Yisrael. We were ready for the compromise. And I think the compromise is a great idea. At a certain point, we need to live together.
I agree.
Otherwise, we jeopardize the Jewish future by making the wall just an Orthodox or ultra-Orthodox side.
The answer to you, Rabbi Azari.
You are going in the end of the day to kick out at least 2/3 of the Jewish people that today are Chilonim, Reform, Conservative, and any other.
But you're making, that's not the picture, Rabbi Azari. The picture is very simple.
This is the picture.
Millions of Reform and liberals are barbecuing nowadays in Florida. They are not here.
Has nothing to do
they
with
don't
it.
want to
Let's
come
talk
here.
about the
They prefer the
Israelis.
prosperity of the state.
Let's talk about the Israelis. We
they
have rights
don't
to.
have to. They don't
Dov,
have
you are
to
not
rule
right.
my values.
You are
here
not right.
in Israel.
The growth of Reform
Most of the
Judaism
people,
is
Rabbi Azari,
dramatic.
Most of the people here, 95% here, are Orthodox or semi-Orthodox.
That is so incorrect.
They're not religious also. So we don't have to consider those millions who are
We have to consider
barbecuing in the
Israelis who
States
want to
now.
come to the
We
Kotel.
let them come here and influence. They don't want.
Rabbi
they don't
Dov,
want to come here.
people that
So
women
let
of
them
the
stay
world are
there.
Israelis.
Rabbi Neuwirth?
I have to say that me and many of my Orthodox colleagues in Israel abroad are in favor of the compromise. However, a provocation like was done today is only jeopardizing the compromise. It's only creating
Orthodox were not
rejection.
Optical
Doing provocation
illusion.
today?
It was the same violence
Rabbi-
when we're
Rabbi-
inside or
Rabbi-
outside. It's an optical
everyone
illusion.
was part of the violence is hurting the place, is
We
hurting
were
the
not
heart,
violent.
the heart of our nation because we were destroyed because of baseless hatred. And this is
The
what
ones
we've
that
seen
hates
today.
are the other
And
side. We
both
don't hate
sides,
anybody.
both
You
sides
don't
are,
want
We do not hate
Nobody
anybody.
has to consider them. They are
do.
such a minority. 3%. They are embarrassing 95%
I
here.
think the
Let
embarrassment- I
them
think
go
the-
out
I
from the
think the
Kotel or
embarrassment-
coming
All
like
right.
everybody
You live in the
else.
past.
That's right.
All right.
think the
Well,
embarrassment-
on that
You saw the
note- on that
numbers
note,
of
we have to
weddings in
wrap this
Israel that
up.
are not Orthodox.
Rabbi, we're going to have to
And-
wrap this up now. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right.